My name is...
I'm a particular reason. What's big?
Are you?
Repeating once again our top story, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has been removed from power, and there are tanks now in the streets.
Side.
Давай, огонь!
You know, over the course of many years, I have seen so many television shows, so many movies. It has been amazing, right? And I know what you're thinking from seeing the thumbnail. How in the hell can you call this your favorite show of all time? Or better yet, what the hell is this show that you like? And you know what? You have a very good point. And just stick with me for a few minutes, and I promise you'll see why. You see, for years I used to watch numerous television shows that till this day have provided me with countless hours of entertainment.
But why have you got an automatic?
I've bust my arm. That's why it took a long time to get out.
You really broken your arm?
Which arm have you broken?
And have become some of my favorites. A good example is recently I did a video on why I love the earlier seasons of The Walking Dead, and I'm very proud of that video, by the way. I also remember going to a local DVD store years ago to buy Game of Thrones for the first time just to binge watch the whole series in a month. And to this day, nobody cannot convince me that the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones are not a masterpiece of television. But as the years went by, there were less and less groundbreaking shows that I was encountering. From the amazing dialogue and pacing of The Sopranos to the raw and gritty set pieces of HBO's The Wire, which happens to be a lot of shows I like are made by HBO. Go figure. The point that I'm trying to make here is eventually sometimes you have to go off and explore other entertainment, whether that be movies or trying to find an underrated gem of a show that doesn't always get the IMDb ratings or critics' praise. So during the pandemic, I started exploring this thing called anime. And look, I know what you're thinking right now. I'm thinking the same thing too. That if I told myself 5 years ago that I was watching this stuff, well, yeah.
What's the matter with you? I apologize. What's the matter with you? Sorry. What the fuck is the matter with you?
However, after seeing a classic called Cowboy Bebop, well, my mind was quickly changed, and it was changed for the better.
Someone cooked here.
Suddenly, this medium that I never wanted to watch had amazing stories to tell that could have mature writing styles as well as something you can get invested in. One of my favorite guilty pleasure movies when I was growing up was a movie called Wanted. It used to premiere on FX all the time, and it was a 2008 film starring James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie, and Morgan Freeman, which, side note, delivers one of my favorite Morgan Freeman lines of all time.
Shoot this motherfucker!
Anyways, I love the so-called fish out of water stories. And for instance, in the movie Wanted, a normal guy who works an office job who is sick of the 9 to 5, and unbeknownst to him, he belongs and has a lineage to a long line of assassins. It's so batshit insane, my young brain back then thought it was the coolest shit ever. Ever since then though, I've always wanted something similar, but I also wanted things that truly resonated with me and what I loved about movies as well as TV, and that was action, dialogue, storytelling, and finally, crime. I already knew that what I was looking for was already pretty narrowed down to a select few choices, but that was until one day I came home after a long day at work years ago, hating my job that I had at the time, and I was so exhausted that I collapsed on my bed after a shower just to wipe the day away. And when I flipped on Hulu, the top recommendation was a show called Black Lagoon. And so I clicked play, and within minutes, I fell in love with it, because it ticked off every single box I have ever wanted in a television show.
Wait! Don't fucking shoot me! I give up! Yeah!
Give me what?
Please, no! I want to give you...
You said you were gonna give me something, right? Well, spit it out. I'm right here. What the fuck are you gonna give me?
But I give up! Seriously, I give...
You quit your fucking babbling. You gonna give it to me or not? Come on! Hey, Jumbo, the game's up.
Black Lagoon is written by Ray Hiyori, and the first pilot chapter was published in March of 2001. The series would go on to garner a cult following, eventually leading up to an anime adaptation made by one of my favorite studios, called Madhouse. The first episode premiered on April 8th, 2006, and it was quickly apparent that the American market would absolutely go crazy for something like this.
Correct!
This show was picked up by Funimation to be dubbed in English, and let me tell you, this is one of the best dubbed shows I have ever seen. Every character performance is done so well that there isn't a bad one I can point out, and I sincerely mean that. Marie Kendricks, who voices Revy, does an amazing job and gives a standout performance, alongside the whole main cast and Brad Swaley, who voices Rock, Dean Redmond, who voices Dutch, and Brian Drummond, who voices Benny. Not to mention the other voice actors who not only might not carry as many lines as the main cast, but also give great performances as well, that we'll come back to later on. But right about now, you're probably asking, well, this is great and all, but why do you love this show so much? What really grabs your attention, or what makes you want to rewatch it every couple of years? Well, it's very simple. The writing is straightforward and to the point. Rei Hiyori is able to blend storytelling with character growth, and somehow on top of all this balances the action as well as the mature themes. And when you're watching the show, you quickly figure out that yes, even though there are some over-the-top moments, you're really just having fun and are along for the ride.
Commander, it's the enemy! The enemy got on board! We're under attack!
The story starts off by giving us an intro to our main character, Rock, a Japanese businessman who his whole life has been loyal and working at the same company, trying to climb the corporate ladder, until one day he is given a task to deliver special cargo, which happens to be a valuable disc containing special data. Well, unfortunately for him, that disc is a job for a certain company who politely commandeers his boat.
Why don't I do you a favor and show you what color your brain is?
Rock then gets kidnapped by the Lagoon Company during a pirate-style hijacking in the South China Sea. But the turning point is when Rock's own company decides he's expendable and tries to have him killed along with the mercs to cover up the loss of the data, which he cannot believe that he is now just a number at a company. After an action-packed chase sequence, which ends in the mercs barely surviving the ambush, and Rock feeling that he is all on his own, decides to join the Lagoon Company after getting the sense of freedom as well as having nowhere else to turn to after his company betrayal. Rock decides that the corporate lifestyle is no longer for him, and he sets out on a life of adventure.
What will you do now?
Guess I'm not a hostage anymore, and I've got nowhere to go.
Hey, there's this crew I've heard of that might be looking for a good sailor. You think you could be interested in something like that? They're a delivery company.
Who sometimes break the rules to put food on the table. Isn't that right?
With that, the whole show dives into the criminal underworld, and as a viewer, it's like you're taking a trip into this forbidden world that you're not supposed to see. And I know for some people this might not be something that they are into or enjoy, but for me, pulling back the curtain and showing all the things that happen behind the scenes is so interesting to me. You see, the show is mainly told by Rock's perspective, obviously. Because it makes sense. We're all exposed to this underworld, and the longer we keep watching, the more things seem to be normalized. That is the magic of Rei Hiyori's writing and world building. But where this show shines isn't just in its writing, it's in its characters and the organizations that are introduced along with it, because it somehow feels grounded, gritty, and realistic, even though it's just a cartoon or anime. The whole point of the Lagoon Company is that they are a mercenaries group for hire, a group that will take any job from any organization, criminal syndicate, as well as government entities. Because Ranapur is a fictional city based in Thailand, and it's not your typical city. It is teeming with crime and always feels like a character in itself. And speaking of those characters, have you ever watched a show and realized that a side character, whenever they are on screen, steals and commands your attention? Whether that be a fictional show, a reality show, it doesn't matter, because they just carry this overwhelming presence and great charisma with them every time they appear. Well, that happens quite a few times for me in this series. However, none quite compare to one of my favorite female characters of all time. She is ruthless yet honorable, unpredictable, as well as having a lethal demeanor. You never know what she might do, and she happens to be in command of one of the most deadliest organizations in the entire series. And her name is none other than Balalaika. If you want to understand Balalaika, you can't just start in the fictional city of Ruanapur. You have to go back in the 1970s and the early 80s in the mountains of Afghanistan. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan on December 24, 1979, and what was supposed to be a short intervention turned into a long, grinding war that lasted almost 10 years until the Soviets withdrew in February of 1989. You see, during the Soviet-Afghan War, Balalaika commanded one of the USSR's most elite Spetsnaz units, and in particular, it was a Spetsnaz paratrooper unit, the kind of operators we would call Tier 1 today, which means the best of the best. Her effectiveness came from a ruthless mix of discipline and adaptability. In the Afghanistan mountains, where ambushes and guerrilla tactics shredded conventional forces, she kept her unit alive by treating every mission like total war. Balalaika led from the front, earning her soldiers respect not through rank alone, but by sharing their risk and scars. Her unit became feared because they operated with precision, loyalty, and cold efficiency. Now, everything was going great for them. That was until the USSR began its withdrawal. Veterans like Balalaika and her men were left to fend for themselves, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. No recognition, no pay, and no future. But instead of dissolving, Balalaika held her men together, turning their battlefield discipline into the backbone of Hotel Moscow.
All of us have been stripped of our military ranks, so I'm no longer a Kapitan. It's all over. You aren't in my company anymore. The country we gave our lives for, the Soviet Union, no longer exists in this world.
Regardless of where we were, as long as we were fighting under you, the path would surely open. We all believed that. Even through this shameful poverty.
And I know what you're thinking, and you're probably coming across this thought right now of, well, why would a Russian operator or a Russian soldier want to go work for a mob boss? Well, long story short, it all goes back to the fall of the USSR, because once that collapsed, wages were not paid to Spetsnaz troops as well as KGB operators. Personnel that were trained in the art of warfare were let go overnight. And just to give you an idea of how crazy the early 90s, and in particular the mid-90s were, nearly 10% of all murders that happened in Moscow were carried out by contract killings, with nearly all of them in some way going back to organized crime. So to state that during this time that Russia was crazy or it was the Wild West is a complete understatement. It's always great when a show makes you want to learn more about the world. And the great thing about Black Lagoon is because you're dealing with so many organized crime units, the show really does entice you to say, hey, go read about this gang or go read about the organized crime and the origins and the history behind why they're formed. It's just completely fascinating to me. And that's something I really do enjoy. And Balalaika, who is voiced by Patricia Drake, does a terrific job. And she is just unlike a lot of characters I've come across in modern television. It's why she's one of my favorites. Sure, there are some similarities if you look closely, but there's really none that quite match. Her faction, aka Hotel Moscow, which I've mentioned, is deadly and not to be messed with. And let me tell you, I would be lying if I said anytime they graced the screen, I wasn't smiling from the chaos that was about to ensue.
Well. Moving out so suddenly? That's such hard work. Perhaps we could help you, Mr. Chin.
Never mind. There must be some kind of misunderstanding here. I don't know what kind of pathetic rumor is floating around town. If we just sit down over lunch, you'll see there's a perfectly good explanation. It's plain to see.
Listen carefully, you piece of horseshit. We didn't come here so you could tell us a story. We already know everything we need to. Trey, that's about the only thing you can still do while you're alive.
And look, if you talk to anyone who likes this series, and just like any other television show, you'll obviously get different answers for who their favorite side characters are, because there are simply so many that you'll meet along this journey. And a very underrated character of the show who I actually forgot about until rewatching the series for this video would be the mysterious and downright badass Mr. Chang.
Did understand and made a deal. Right around the time we told him we were going to crush his balls like nuts.
Mr. Chang is the head of none other than one of the most notorious as well as discreet organized crime syndicates known as the Triads. Mr. Chang isn't like any other crime boss though. This man commands your attention when he is on screen, much like Balalaika, and is so cool to watch as he brings this mysterious atmosphere as well as charismatic charm. He makes sure that he stays composed at all times, and when business doesn't go down the way that he likes, he makes sure to handle it, and in some cases, handles it himself.
I have to admit, it's been a while since I've been in the field.
As you can already tell about this show though, it takes aspects of the real world and combines them into this dark fiction epic that really brings this world to life. Whether that be the mentions of shady organized crime syndicates like the Russian Mafia, the Triads, the Yakuza, the Italian Mafia, or even the cartels, everything brings this level of authenticity to the forefront, so that when the action starts going down, it's so much fun to watch. Regardless of the action though, if you're going to be going up against criminals, gangs, mafia families, you're going to need a lot of firepower. And that's where Black Lagoon has you covered.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
You see, being that the Lagoon Company has so many connections, and going back on my point before that they are a mercenary group for hire, the firearms presented in this series are a gun guy's and gal's wet dream. Everything from the Barrett 50 caliber to the infamous AK-47. Every single firearm used in this show represents the person and organization who carries it. Obviously, the Russian Mafia, which we talked about earlier, carries AKs and Soviet-style firearms like the Tokarev pistol, while you'll see iconic firearms like the Spaz 12 being used by special forces or elite operatives. I think you get what I'm saying though. If you're a gun guy or gal, you're going to really enjoy the guns you see on screen. I mean, for crying out loud, they even have the Polish PM63.
Hey dude, nice rack. PM63 rack, that is.
Making an appearance. And yes, I used that gun in Black Ops 1. Okay, it's a pretty cool little neat gun. But if there is one firearm that elevates this show as iconic, then it is none other than the Beretta M92 handgun. This handgun is not only sexy and sleek, but it is one of the best pistols ever made, cementing itself in pop culture. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I have seen this handgun used in a lot of my favorite action movies, like Die Hard.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
And of course, who could forget another favorite of mine, Lethal Weapon.
Hey, you think I'm crazy? Yeah, you want to see crazy? I'll tell you. Now that's a real badge. I'm a real cop, and this is a real fucking gun.
Finally, after seeing it dual wielded by one of the most badass anti-heroine characters I have come across, well, let's just say it was a deciding factor to have myself purchase this handgun soon after. This show as a whole is unapologetically the early 2000s era, and Black Lagoon feels like the last of a dying breed where anime and TV didn't really care about being marketable, it just wanted you to enjoy the glorious action and fun that was happening on screen. But here's the thing though. This show, as fun and action-oriented as it is, can be and is very dark, and that is none more apparent than one of the darkest turns I have seen an action show take in what would soon to be known as the Vampire Twins arc, which begins in episode 13. This is where Black Lagoon stops playing around and shows the real writing styles and skills of the author. Up until this point, the show's been violent and gritty and morally gray, but this is where it fully embraces horror and seriousness. The arc begins seemingly out of nowhere, with Hotel Moscow having some of its foot soldiers killed while out and about in the city while doing collections. The killer is unknown and is figured out to be an outsider after having a meeting with all of the organizations in the city. The biggest curveball, though, is it isn't a man or a woman doing the killings, it is two children. This is the point in the show and the video that if you get too uncomfortable, I will put a timestamp to skip past this, because I read online a lot of people had trouble with how real and sad this arc very much is, and to be quite honest, rewatching it for this video damn near had me sitting there for a minute after the credits rolled just staring at the screen.
What the fuck is going on here?
So I will go ahead and put a timestamp on the video if you want to skip this part. The story of Hansel and Gretel, the Romanian twins, is not just disturbing, it's tragic, and it is deeply rooted in real historical trauma. See, after the fall of communism in Romania in 1989, when Nicolae Ceausescu was overthrown as well as killed, the country faced an economic collapse, political corruption, and one of the darkest humanitarian crises in Eastern Europe. The orphan epidemic. Back in 1989, during the epidemic, thousands of children were abandoned in state-run institutions, many of which were underfunded, abusive, and horrifyingly unsupervised. These kids grew up without families, exposed to many types of abuses that I cannot mention on YouTube. What Black Lagoon does in its usual unflinching style is turn that real-world pain into a nightmare-fueled story. Hansel and Gretel aren't just shock value villains, which at first you think they are, but the more you watch the episodes that follow, you realize that they're broken, weaponized victims of that system. They speak in a blend of childlike fantasy and brutal violence because that's the only way they learned how to survive. Hotel Moscow eventually brings in their best troops to deal with them alongside having this joint operation with the Triad. Balalaika wants her revenge and will stop at nothing to get it. However, the biggest indicator for me rewatching this is that you slowly start to realize how broken these children really are and how bad you really do feel for them. At first, when they appear on screen, you think they're just cardboard cutout bad guy villains, but that is when the layers quickly start to peel back and they switch between personalities, play acting gender roles, and manipulating adults with twisted innocence. It's all of a form of a trauma response. It is heartbreaking to learn what they went through, and quite frankly, like I said before, I can't mention half of it due to YouTube guidelines. What makes this arc hit so hard isn't just how dark it is how human it is. I mean, hell, even when Balalaika finally gets her revenge, which is very well done, by the way, is a very tense and atmospheric scene, you can hear the tone of anger, but you know she has no choice in what she's about to do. These kids never had a chance.
I've got some bad news for you. I'm sorry, little boy, but this is it. The end of the line for you. But before that happens, you'll have to apologize for all the mischief you've caused. Isn't that right? Now you're gonna kneel before me and beg forgiveness.
You're pretty funny.
I said kneel! As I said, the end of the line. If you were able to think rationally, it would have been obvious to you that as you pursued us, you were being led to your death.
And for 3 full episodes, we watched them tear through the city with an almost supernatural level of savagery. And yet, by the end, you don't feel triumph when they're stopped. You feel grief. You feel the emptiness of a world that failed them before they ever picked up an axe or a gun. This arc doesn't offer closure, it offers a mirror. It asks you to confront the cost of survival in a place where innocence is a liability. It's not just one of the best tone shifts in Black Lagoon, it's one of the most sobering moments in a show I have ever seen, where fiction stares directly into the face of historical tragedy and does not blink.
It was nice to meet you, mister. Hopefully we'll meet again someday. We could have a picnic. Just you and me, okay, mister?
Yeah. That sounds wonderful. Really wonderful.
And look, as you're probably already piecing together by now, I'm a history nerd through and through. I love learning about past events, places, and leaders. So for a show to combine all of these things, to me, it just hits in the right way to have me binge episode after episode. The main appeal, though, to this show is its characters and how they evolved during this time. Rock and Revy are without a doubt the highlights showcasing what happens when 2 different personalities combine. Rock has this innocence about him that Revy brushes off and makes fun of him for, but she will never admit that she really enjoys it. It's fun seeing these two come across as hating each other at first, then the next building chemistry as a team. Revy never wants Rock to lose or become like what she is, and she will do what she can to protect him from that without directly saying it.
You bastard!
Who are you calling bastard? My name is Rock!
You fucking spoiled, arrogant son of a—
It's Rock!
And arrogant? Who the hell are you kidding? Why don't you try taking a good look at yourself? Aren't you supposed to be some kind of outlaw, a wild pirate? But as soon as you open your mouth, all I ever hear you talking about is money, money, money. You think you'd be some hard-ass villain after the big prize, but you end up scavenging off corpses instead. Is there any fucking limit to how greedy you can be? Are you really that pathetic? Don't you have any pride left in you?
You really think you can judge me, Mr. White Collar? What do you know about my life, huh? What the hell do you know about me? Go on, why don't you tell me? A guy like you who spent his life in a safe little bubble has no idea what I've been through!
Black Lagoon would go on to air 24 episodes in 2006, ending in December of that year. The show would then return for a 5-episode special, or OVA, in 2010 on the character Roberta. You know, that crazy ass maid that is a Cuban Special Forces guerrilla fighter? Oh, I didn't mention her? Yeah, she's in the show. That's a whole nother can of worms, and I would take me a whole entire another 20 minutes to dissect her story.
If you will excuse me now, I must be on my way. However, please accept this parting gift. To all of you gentlemen, I bid farewell.
It's a balls-to-the-wall, non-stop gunfight in these episodes. Overall, it is just a crazy experience, and some of the stuff I haven't mentioned in the show due to the fact that if this video at all gets you interested in watching, I highly recommend you give it a go. By no means is it perfect, and I know that, okay? But it's just so much fun. From gun-running churches, yes, that's really a thing.
However, first things first, we will deal with these non-believers the same way we did with the people of Red Shemesh.
To morgues who are tasked with cleaning up and disposing of bodies.
Hi, I'm so late. You're waiting long. I'm so sorry about that. Are you ready? Oh, you want to know how to cut him up? Boss Chang said he want to make an example out of him. You understand? But he never tell me so far if he want me chopped or minced. I guess you decide. Well, I finished. He all yours now. You can take care of things from here.
There's always something in here that gets your attention, and Black Lagoon has become a cult classic in the anime space as well as TV shows in general, for which they don't make them like they used to anymore. And quite frankly, I really miss original ideas like this. By 2007, Black Lagoon's manga had sold over 3 million copies, and that number only gets greater with time, because by 2022, the manga has sold over 8.5 million. Rei Hiyori still tries his best to continue the story of this amazing franchise, but there are long hiatuses due to him struggling with depression. He is still making progress slowly, although there hasn't been a new anime adaptation to continue the show for over a decade. I don't know if there ever will be a continuation. I just hope that we get a proper conclusion to this franchise soon, and until then, I'm happy with what we have. This show gave me an escape so many years ago, as well as giving me a perspective to what the world can really be like during day-to-day life. Of course, I knew these things going in all those years ago and with watching all the mob movies and stuff like that, but for some reason, this single-handedly catapulted my interest in firearms, organized crime, and simple storytelling. And if I'm being honest here, there really hasn't been anything that has matched it for me since. Until next time, guys, I'll see you soon. I'm sorry for this video for taking so long. The next one will not.